We are 1 week away from the start of the Major League Baseball season. A week from today, the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to be going up against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Baseball is on the verge of being able to come back, and as a result, the Los Angeles Dodgers have started to make some moves to the roster. In fact, if you look at where the roster is at right now, just about every single roster decision has been made, or almost all of the opening day roster decisions have been made. We're going to be doing a little bit of catch up on the show here today, talking about all the roster moves that the Dodgers have made, what additional roster moves still has to be decided over the last couple of days in camp, what to expect going forward. Going to be a little bit of a fun show. My name is Austin Brubaker. I'm going to be your host this evening. Thank you very much for being able to join us here at Dodgers Daily, Dodgers Dogs, as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Going to be a little bit of interaction that we're going to have. Going to do a little bit of additional insight and analysis, just like I've tried to bring you guys all spring training. Also, for you guys, a little bit more of the analytical type of side. I've been working on not necessarily any new statistics, but rather trying to take some of the information that I have or that's out there and expand upon it, provide something that's a little bit more insightful that's out there, to provide contextual numbers to perhaps some of the observations that we have. So excited to be able to do that. Excited to be able to interact with you guys tonight. Casey is not here. I actually don't know where Casey has been the last couple of days. I'm sure he's probably been busy with a lot of Oklahoma State stuff. Have not had the chance to be able to interact or talk with him in the past a little bit. But I'm sure he'll be on at some point soon. Happy to be able to join with you guys. Showtime LA, thank you very much for tuning in. Roki and Robo aren't better than pitchers than River Ryan and goes for Trinan. Hurt, I really don't get the he's coming off Tommy John logic, isn't doing it for me. Also, good evening. We'll get into some of those topics as well. We'll start off with some of the pitching side, but if you have comments, if you have things that you want me to talk about, please let me know down in the comment section. Let's start off first with where we are with the roster. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to first start off with the pitching side, because actually the opening day roster for the starting pitching, even though it hasn't been officially set, is basically officially set based on the moves that the Los Angeles Dodgers have made. This right here is a breakdown of where essentially the roster is at, as well as with the starters and with the bullpen options. Basically what the opening day bullpen, unless things change or there is a massive surprise to the mix, this is going to be what the opening day pitching staff is going to be. From the starting pitchers in alphabetical order, as I always do: Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani, Roki Sasaki, Emmett Sheehan, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Justin Robleski. I know Robo is not technically in alphabetical order. He was added in because of the optional starter, so I guess it's not in alphabetical order. That's on me. Those are going to be the 6 quote-unquote starters that are going to be part of the mix. First off, Yoshi Yamamoto, opening day starter for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Absolutely the correct decision based off what he did last postseason. It is only right that he gets to take the mound opening day for the Los Angeles Dodgers. These are going to be your 6 guys that are going to be starting. It's going to be good for the Los Angeles Dodgers because there's a decent amount of off days towards the beginning parts of the season. I think they get basically, besides the opening day, every Thursday off for a couple of weeks in a row. And for opening weekend, I believe they get Sunday off. So there's going to be a decent amount of rest days for the Dodgers to be able to space out their starters. I'm curious to be able to see how they utilize somebody like a Justin Robleski, just because he can be utilized in a lot of different roles. You saw him out of the bullpen last year, but I think the Dodgers want to keep him as stretched out as possible, and this could be either in more of a piggyback type of role, or if they wanted to go towards a little bit more of a 6th starter type of option, Justin Robleski is going to be part of the mix. This is very likely going to be the bullpen to start the season. Edwin Diaz, Tanner Scott, Blake Trinan, Alex Vesia, the 4 non-optionable healthy bullpen arms were always going to be part of the mix unless there was some type of injury. And then you have the guys who very likely have made the club: Ben Kasparius, Jack Dreyer, Will Klein, and Edgardo Henriquez. Those are your 4 optionable bullpen arms that made the mix for the Los Angeles Dodgers, which means there's a couple of arms that we had, or Casey and I had talked about potentially being part of the mix, that will not be on the opening day roster. First off, River Ryan. Well, actually, I'll bring in some of the names really quick, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it. First off, River Ryan, Kyle Hurt will also start the season at the minor league level. Both of them were announced that they're going to start the season at the minor league level. And then one guy not on this list, but I had mentioned as far as about a week ago, what my prediction was for opening day bullpen. I actually predicted a guy like Ryder Ryan would make the opening day bullpen. We'll talk about him. Let's actually talk about him really quickly, because there was actually a really good comment in the comments of the last video by Jay, who had mentioned that with Ryder Ryan's MLB experience, it's probably not likely that he had an opt-out clause, which means that the Dodgers technically could keep him around the organization for a little bit. I don't know how long he would be around the organization before he potentially could opt out, or if he just remains part of the organization, because I think he has less than a year of experience left of service time at the major league level. Ryder Ryan won't start the season for the Los Angeles Dodgers. However, with his option ability and with a lot of arms that are needed throughout the course of the season, I would not be surprised at some point to see River Ryan's brother Ryder Ryan make his not his MLB debut, but his Dodgers debut at some point throughout the season. He will not start the season with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and neither will River Ryan. Look, if you are just going based off of the quality of pitcher, and that is your sole criteria of who you have on the major league level, or the highest level of this is what we want to do 13 best pitchers on our opening day roster, River Ryan would be on the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is not the game the Los Angeles Dodgers are playing at this point, and this was something that Casey and I had a conversation back and forth. I think this is ultimately where the Dodgers are ending up, is River Ryan. The play that the Dodgers are doing right now is they are slow playing him at least a little bit in a more controlled type of environment in Oklahoma City, where they can have him go out, stretch out as a starter, go through a starter's routine, go through the workload of what it takes to be a starter without the pressure of doing it under a major league environment. That is how they want River Ryan to come back from injury and build up his innings, build up his workload. Because River Ryan is not needed for the start of the season, he is needed for October. And the best thing that the Dodgers believe that they can do for River Ryan is to make sure that he's healthy for that moment. Because what we saw in spring training was really, really solid for River Ryan. What we're going to do is we're actually going to pull up some spring training numbers, and what we're going to use for these spring training numbers for the pitching staff is actually going to be Baseball Savant. We're going to look up some of these numbers right here, just because I've been getting into a lot into Baseball Savant recently and some of the search options, and I want to be able to utilize that. So River Ryan, if we're looking at non-bunting pitches, he had a 34.3% strikeout percentage in spring training, 11.4 walk percentage, 260 weighted on base average, and this is going to be one of the key ones, one of the reasons why I really like Baseball Savant for this specific skill set. A 38.6% whiff percentage for River Ryan in spring training. If you go to some of the leaderboards for the Dodgers in that category with over 100 different pitches, River Ryan was at the top of that list for the highest whiff percentage in spring training with this given category. He was absolutely phenomenal for the Los Angeles Dodgers this spring training, and I think he is right on the right track of what he needs to do to be ready for the Dodgers. The timing is not now, though, and this is what you have to understand about the Dodgers is they do not necessarily play for April or May. Their entire goal is for October, and if they don't need River Ryan at this point and they want to be able to create a more controlled type of environment, it is going to have to be a little bit later in the season. And this is especially true when you bring in the conversation with Roki Sasaki, because let's be fair, Roki Sasaki is incredibly inconsistent, and it is incredibly difficult to be able to get a read on that situation, what's going on right now. He has not been a reliable starting pitcher during spring training, and this goes back not just to spring training, but to the regular season last year. And if you want to make a merit argument between River Ryan and Roki Sasaki and who you actually feel comfortable with, I think the argument absolutely falls on the case of you feel a lot more comfortable about River Ryan as opposed to Roki Sasaki right now. but they're in a little bit of a different place. And I think there's a multifaceted reason, and Casey and I went into a lot of the conversation of why they're keeping Roki Sasaki on the Los Angeles Dodgers to start the season. Could come down to different conversations that they had with Roki Sasaki before bringing him in. I think ultimately it comes down to a situation of they believe that Roki Sasaki, with the pitches that he has, the best development, or the only way that he's going to be able to develop and be able to grow as a pitcher, is going to best be utilized at the major league level. Whereas with River Ryan, yes, that development needs to happen at the major league level, but rather it is more focused right now on that build-up, on the ramping, on the limiting of innings before River Ryan is able to come in, and wanting to make sure that he can get through as much of a full 2026 season as possible. And that controlled environment perhaps won't mesh as well with the Los Angeles Dodgers, because if there is inconsistency with Roki Sasaki and how he's pitching right now, if you don't necessarily know how many innings some of your other pitchers are going to go, or don't want to put a full leash on there, and also don't want to put extended burn on some of the bullpen, because one of the things, if they decided with even keeping Roki Sasaki as part of the starting pitching mix, they decided to add River Ryan, let's say, instead of Edgardo Henriquez, that's going to put a little bit more of a heavy emphasis, in my opinion, on some of the other bullpen arms, 7 guys to cover up those innings. Yes, River Ryan would be able to take perhaps a piggyback type of chunk of those innings. Perhaps you could use that as saying they would need a little bit less innings, but I think rather the Dodgers wanted a little bit more of a controlled environment, and they wanted him to be able to get the routine as a starter. And Roki Sasaki, I believe, needs to develop, for the Dodgers spinning at the major league level. He is absolutely somebody to be able to keep a close eye on, because right now it's way too inconsistent for Roki Sasaki. River Ryan going to start the season with Oklahoma City. You can absolutely disagree with that decision, but this will not be the last time you see River Ryan in a Los Angeles Dodgers uniform, because he's going to be needed, and there's going to become a time when River Ryan is going to get his name called, and he's going to go into the big leagues and try to kick down the door and never go back to Oklahoma City. We'll wait and see what exactly happens with that. Other name that was part of the mix that got optioned down to the minor leagues is Kyle Hurt. Similarly to a River Ryan, Kyle Hurt absolutely shoved throughout the course of spring training. If you were going based solely off what the spring training numbers were, Kyle Hurt would be on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Looking at the numbers that he had, 21 pitches, non-bunt pitches, 41.5% strikeout percentage with a 7% walk percentage is elite. With 33% whiff, that's really solid. 266 weighted on base average, wasn't hit all that hard. Kyle Hurt was getting strikeouts left and right, and he was doing so. He was doing so really effectively. Kyle Hurt is going to play a major part of this bullpen, but similarly to the situation with River Ryan, he's coming back from injury. And the Dodgers want to be able to control some of the innings, perhaps control some of the pressure, perhaps test out a few different things before having him start at the big league level. It is, especially when you think about guys coming back from injury, from rehab. For example, last year when Blake Treinen was going through the rehab process, there's a couple of different boxes that he had to check before the Dodgers felt comfortable with him maintaining a spot at the major league level. It included not just performance type of issues, performance type of evaluation, but also stuff like they want to see a back-to-back go for a Blake Treinen. They want to see come in mid-inning. For Kyle Hurt, a lot of the mention is they want him to be a little bit more of a multi-inning relief type of option, meaning not just one inning for Kyle Hurt, but maybe 2-inning burst out of him and his arm. And perhaps the Dodgers want to build up to that in a little bit more of a controlled environment. And there might be, because they want to utilize him as a multi-inning reliever, and because they have off days throughout the course of the beginning part of the season, they want to check a couple of additional boxes at the minor league level. Again, this is not indicative of the talent that Kyle Hurt has. This is not indicative of the talent River Ryan has, because it is an entirely different conversation if it was the postseason starts in a week and the Dodgers have to make their postseason roster. Rather, this is an opening day roster, and the Dodgers want to make a determination of what they want to do going forward for opening day. and make sure that their arms are healthy, ready to go throughout the course of the season. I think there's a couple more check marks that both River Ryan and Kyle Hurt have to check, which means the Dodgers are being perhaps a little too cautious, but they're being cautious with some of their approach, and their end goal is October. So what does that open up the door for the pitching side? That opens up the door for Roki Sasaki, and he has to be able to showcase better than what he has. His fastball is absolutely getting hammered right now, or it's not a great enough shape, even though the velo is up a little bit. Still, the shape is not playing incredibly well. His forkball is absolutely unhittable when it's thrown, but if hitters are not swinging at that, it's not that effective. We're going to have to wait and see what Roki Sasaki is going to be able to do. It also opens up opportunities in the bullpen for both Edgardo Henriquez and Will Klein to start the season, which at the very least, if you're going off of nostalgia's sake, this is a great thing for both of them. Because let's remember, it was not just Will Klein in his 4 innings. Yes, he was the predominant one who took over Game 3 for the Los Angeles Dodgers. But Will Klein does not get the baseball if it's not for Edgardo Henriquez and his 2 scoreless innings right before Will Klein threw out there in Game 3 to be able to get it through the 18th inning. It was the 13th and 14th inning, I believe. That was Edgardo Henriquez's innings in Game 3 of the World Series. Both of them are going to be in Los Angeles for the ring ceremony. Both of them are going to start the season for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I'm excited for both of them. Both of them obviously have incredible swing and miss stuff. Will Klein, with what he did at the minor leagues last year, I think it perhaps is a little bit underrated what he was able to do, the swing and miss stuff that he had. Edgardo Henriquez, obviously, with his insane velocity that he has, is going to get a lot of hitters out, and there's just a ton of potential with Edgardo Henriquez. I think let's start off with Edgardo, because especially at the start of spring training, did not go particularly well. Was not throwing strikes. With Edgardo, it almost is surely is all coming down to execution. His stuff plus on all of his pitches are like 120-ish level. That is plus type of stuff for Edgardo Henriquez. But if he's not throwing strikes, if he's not able to execute at all, he's not going to get a ton of hitters out. And I think that's what you saw a little bit early in spring training, combined not throwing strikes with also getting hammered on a couple of different pitches. I think some of the steps that they're looking at with some of the evaluation process with Edgardo Henriquez similarly is you have to figure some of the stuff out at the major league level. The upside and potential of Edgardo is so incredibly high. Comes down to execution for him, and for him to be able to execute at the major league level, be able to continue that development, to learn further how to get major league hitters out and learn about the process of what it takes to be able to execute properly, plus having 102 out of the bullpen pretty consistently, I think is going to be a good thing for the Dodgers. Will Klein, another great option, not just a feel-good storyline for him, but somebody who has had a ton of success, or has a ton of success with his swing and miss stuff. Perhaps not necessarily the results last year for Will Klein, but the swing and miss stuff was absolutely there. At the AAA level last year, it was a 36.5% strikeout percentage. At the minor league level, in a Dodgers uniform or Oklahoma City Comets uniform, it was 42.5 at AAA Oklahoma City. If he can get anywhere near that, which at the major league level in limited appearances for him, it was at 30%. That is somebody that you want in your bullpen. 2 guys with swing and miss upside that you have against right-handed hitters. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. One of those guys, or perhaps some of those guys, you could throw in Ben Kasparias or Jack Dreyer, is going to be perhaps optioned at some point throughout the course of the season. The opening day roster will not be the full roster that is utilized by the Los Angeles Dodgers, but it is a start. And perhaps it is a good thing that the optionable guys that they have on their roster to start the season, they are the guys that had the most impact on the 2025 Major League roster for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Jack Dreyer broke out in 2025 for the Dodgers. Ben Kasparias early in the season was phenomenal for the Dodgers, and for a couple months stretch was really helping carry the bullpen. and then you throw in Will Klein and Edgardo Henriquez with what they did towards the end of the season in the postseason. You have 4 guys being rewarded for what they did in 2025, get to celebrate ring ceremony in Dodger Stadium. They are going to be on the Major League roster to start the season for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So, pulling this back up, this is the roster to start the season. Pitching side, not official, but essentially official if you can read some of the tea leaves and some of the guys that have already been optioned. Starters, Glasnow, Ohtani, Sasaki, Sheehan, Yamamoto, Robleski. Bullpen, Edwin Diaz, Tanner Scott, Blake Trinan, Alex Vesia, Ben Kasparius, Jack Schreier, Will Klein, and Edgardo Henriquez. That is the pitching side of things for the Los Angeles Dodgers. A couple of other names just to keep an eye out of where things are headed for them right now. Guys that are injured right now include Snell, Gratterall, Phillips, Stewart, Stone, and Bobby Miller. And then some guys that can go ahead and bring up. Optional guys are Landon Knack and River Ryan. Bullpen, Paul Gervais, Kyle Hurt, Ronan Kopp. I believe all of these guys, or everybody except for Landon Knack, I believe, although Landon Knack might have been optioned. Just vast majority guys have already been optioned. Let's go ahead and move on to the position player side because there has been one official addition to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The 40-man roster is now set at 40 because Santiago Espinal has made it on the opening day roster for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He was officially added. This was somebody who, when the Dodgers had signed him, especially with the injuries to both Tommy Edman and Kike Hernandez, who are not going to start the season in Los Angeles and are going to miss some pretty significant time, the Dodgers were looking to fill in a hole as a right-handed bench bat that could be an infielder, that could be a little bit more of a platoon option with Max Muncy. And all they were looking for was solid and we'll go ahead and cut back over to me. All they were looking for this spot, solid defense and can hit left-handed pitching. And what you saw with Santiago Espinal this spring training was absolutely electric for him. He went out there and blew every single one of the expectations that you possibly could have had for him and blew it out of the water. Looking at his spring training stats, 389, 432, 639 slugging percentage, 1.071 OPS. His expected OPS, 853. Absolutely right in line with what his actual results. The big thing about Santiago Espinal that has really been a game changer for him, he's hitting the ball so much harder than what he had last season. Average exit velo for Espinal this spring training is up 4 miles per hour than what it was last season. It's about 90.6, just a tick above league average, which last year was about 89.5. He's not somebody that's going to swing and miss a whole lot. He's going to provide pretty solid and versatile defense. He's been exactly what the Dodgers have needed for out of him. And I think once the Dodgers could not add in an Andy Ibanez, this was the best case scenario for the Dodgers to turn to because now you have stability. Now you have an option that you can turn to that can play a little bit of backup with Max Muncy, platoon option with him against left-handed pitching, but also can fight for additional roster opportunities, additional playing time at second base because, as we'll get into in a little bit, there's not been somebody that has run away necessarily with the second base position, although I think there is a leader at this point for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Espinal has a chance to be able to fight for that spot. We've seen him play all over the place in spring training, at third, at second, at first. We saw him play in right field. He can do a lot of different things, and I think that is exactly what the Dodgers are looking for without versatile options and Kike and Tommy Edman. I do not know how long Espinal will maintain with the Dodgers because last year at the major league level, he had a 575 OPS. He was not a good hitter last year at the major league level. And certainly there is some skewness with major league results. Looking specifically at Santiago Espinal, he actually has been really solid against major league pitchers at spring training. If you take his stats specifically against pitchers at a major league debut, it's a 925 expected OPS and a 1.112 OPS. But that doesn't mean with spring training results that he's going to hit like this at the major league level going forward. We're going to have to wait and see. There's going to be limited opportunities, and it is up to Espinal to continue to run with the opportunity that he has been given. But if he's hitting the baseball harder than he ever has, or he's continuing to hit it above league average level, while also not whiffing, swinging, and missing a whole lot, and providing really solid defense, it's going to be almost impossible for the Dodgers to decide to move off of a guy like that, even if the roster crunch determines that that is likely going to be the case at some point for Espinal. He's been absolutely an exciting addition for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He is going to be on the opening day roster for the Dodgers. So that leaves the rest of the roster, and this is what the projected roster that I have right now. If you're looking at position players, let's start with the bench first. Rushing, Rojas, Alex Call, Santiago Espinal. The only one that you could have kind of a minute perhaps disagreement with is Alex Call, which, by the way, I don't think for the past couple of days or past couple of spring training games we have seen Alex Call on the big league side. So I'm assuming everything is okay with him. If there's some type of injury, perhaps that could change things out. And you could insert somebody like Jack Sawinski could re-enter and be part of the mix. Both Ciani and Ryan Ward have both been optioned down to the minor league level, so I don't think it would be one of them that takes the place. But I'm assuming that Alex Call is healthy, ready to go, and I would expect him to make the major league roster because he's had a really solid spring training, both by the actual results and by the underlying results. We've also seen him play out in center field a couple of different times, which was important for us to see because he has to have versatility in the outfield. Then we get into the starters: Ohtani, Smith, Betts, Freeman, Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages, Kyle Tucker. And I'm officially right now making the projection that Ha-Seong Kim is going to make the opening day roster for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So let's cut back over to me, and then we'll get into some of the numbers. There's a couple of different things that I'm going to be bringing up with this. Ha-Seong Kim and Alex Freeland has been a conversation that we've had for quite a while for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And if you have been somebody that's been following me quite closely, whether it's on social media, whether it's been on here on Dodgers Daily, I've been somebody that's very much been an advocate for Alex Freeland. And I think early in spring, there was actually really good reason to be able to do that. We'll get into some of that numbers in just a little bit. The way things have played out within the past week and a half or so has altered my mind a little bit because Ha-Seong Kim, since returning back from the WBC, which you could say early in camp and WBC, if you look at those results and the accumulation of that, wasn't necessarily great. But the past couple of games or so that Kim has been able to play, he's been playing much more consistently than Alex Freeland, and you have a lot more comfortability with him at the plate with how he is playing at this point. You combine that with the fact that he is utilizing his speed much more effectively than Alex Freeland is. Alex Freeland is somebody that can steal 30 bases and has a history of stealing 25 to 30 bases at the minor league level. We have not seen that at the major league level, major league side of things at all. We've seen Ha-Seong Kim be great defensively this spring. I think we've seen a lot of good defense from Alex Freeland as well, but I think even on the defensive edge that goes to Ha-Seong Kim. And then that comes down to a couple of other factors. Ha-Seong Kim's ability to play center field, a little bit more backup for you, and a little bit more insurance in the outfield. And right now, Kim is swinging the bat a lot better than what Alex Freeland is, not just with the actual results, but a lot of the underlying metrics as well. And we're going to dive into that in just a second. But first, what we're going to do is we're actually, as part of this conversation, we're going to build it as a first half of spring training, or first part of spring training, second part of spring training, so you can see perhaps what I was seeing initially, perhaps where the Dodgers are seeing, why they haven't made an official decision on this yet, and where Ha-Seong Kim, at least in the past little bit, past 13 or so plate appearances, has really helped turn around some of his game that he has. And in order to do this, we're going to introduce a couple of new-ish type stats. Now, these are not new stats in the sense of these haven't been tried, these haven't been created, but over the past day or two, I've had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted to be able to quantify, and there's a couple of different areas that I want to quantify and showcase for you today. We're going to use this with the spreadsheet that you have, which, by the way, is in the link of the description of this video, also is pinned to the chat. You can go ahead and check on this yourself. You're going to notice, if you have been paying attention, or if you've understood what I've done a little bit with this. This is part of the zone contact type of rates. There's a couple of extra statistics that are a little bit new, and I'm going to explain what I'm trying to do, even though they're not necessarily perfect. So a couple of additional things you're going to see. I'm just going to go through some of these. You have OPS, you have expected OPS. This expected OPS takes into account exit velo. This takes into account stuff like expected batting average, expected slugging percentage, all expected on base percentage, all of that type of stuff. It is not, you can't technically find this on Baseball Savant by a check a box and find out what the official expected OPS is, but rather you have to calculate that, and you can see 2025 regular season and 2026 spring training stats for both Freeland, Kim, Espinal, and Nick Senzel is part of the mix that you can see. Other names that are part of there a little bit down there. You have OPS, expected OPS. You also have swing percentage, and then this is another one that I just recently added, balls in play percentage. Essentially what this is the percentage of swings that result in a ball in play, or it's the number of balls in play divided by the number of swings. So it's the percentage or proportion of balls that end up in play of the number of swings that you actually had. So at the major league level last year, about 36.7% of the time a major league hitter swung, that ball went in play, resulted in some type of hit, some type of out, some type of result from there. And you can see for some of the hitters, like for example, Alex Freeland last year, 29% of his swings resulted in a ball in play, which could lead into some of the swing and miss that he had last year. With Kim, it was about 32.7%. Espinal, much higher, 44.5%. He's much more of a contact-oriented hitter. Same thing with like Miguel Rojas. The contact-oriented type of guys are going to have a much higher ball in play percentage because they're going to put the ball in play a lot more. That's what this is. This is the number of balls in play. This is the launch angle in which they're hitting it. And then we get into a little bit of fun stuff. And this we're going to go into whiff percentage. This is the percentage of swings that result in the swing and miss. And this is what I've been working on just a little bit with this, is expected whiff percentage. Now, this is something that has been calculated or attempted to calculate through a wide variety of different statistical techniques. I'm going to explain what I'm trying to utilize with this. Essentially, what this expected whiff percentage is just looking at swing decisions. If you were to do the swing decisions that an individual makes, what is the expected whiff percentage? And what we're utilizing for this is a couple of different things. We're using swing percentages. We're using what the MLB average whiff percentage in the 2025 regular season, and we're using each one of the zones. So for example, for the heart of the zone, which as you guys hopefully remember, there are 4 different zones of a strike zone. There is the heart, which is the middle part of the zone. That's where all the damage gets done. There's the shadow, which is the perimeter, the outside part of the zone, just inside and outside the zone. There's the chase zone, where pitchers try to get chase for a lot of the hitters. And there's the waste zone, where pitchers essentially miss their spot, or it's way outside of the zone. Each one of these zones has a different average MLB average whiff percentage. For example, for waste pitches, if a major league hitter tried to swing at that, the MLB average whiff percentage on those pitches was 88.5%. For chase percentage, it was 57.5%. For shadow percentage, it was 27.2%. And for the heart percentage, whiff percentage was 14%. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to take that and determined by the swing decisions a major league hitter made, what would we expect their whiff percentage to be? So for example, if somebody only swings at heart pitches, pitches that are at the heart of the zone, you would expect them to have a 14% whiff percentage because they're not swinging at the shadow pitches. They're not swinging at the chase percentage. They're pitches. They're not swinging at the waste percentage. They're only swinging at the heart percentage, which means that you would expect it to be 14%, and then it would probably be a little bit different from that. And obviously, each hitter has a different amount of swings in the heart, different amount of swings in the shadow, chase, waste zone. And what I was able to do, the expected whiff percentage, give a little bit of a rough estimation. Obviously, it does not take into account other variables. You would want to take that into account. Pitch characteristics, all that different type of stuff. That was not the intended goal. It's entirely of a pitch selection type of basis. So, for example, Alex Freeland, last year in the 2025 regular season, based off his swing decisions, which last year swung at about 63.5% heart, 40% shadow, 6% chase, and did not swing at waist pitches, you would expect his whiff percentage to be about 22.5%, just solely based on MLB average swing decisions. Last year, it was about 31.1%. Much higher than what his actual whiff percent, his expected was much lower than what his actual whiff percentage was, which if you take their whiff percentage minus the expected, his whiff minus expected was about 8.5% higher than what it was, which means that even though last year Freeland was making some relatively good decisions at the plate, he was swinging and missing much more than average, which means that Freeland, if he swings and misses at this degree, has to make really good swing decisions in order to cut down on what his swing and miss is. Similarly, Ha-Seong Kim, expected whiff percentage last year, rough estimation, was about 26.5%. Last year, his whiff percentage was about 31.5%, about 5% higher than what it actually, his whiff percentage about 5% higher than what it was expected based off of the swing decisions and what he had. And what I wanted to be able to do with this is be able to take a look at not just what their overall whiff percentage, which you can see with Freeland in spring training, is down 6%. With Ha-Seong Kim, dropped pretty dramatically, is now down close to 9.5% for him. But what is it versus what it was expected of him? For Alex Freeland, it's dropped about 4.5% based off what he did last year, whiff percentage minus expected whiff percentage. Ha-Seong Kim has made a lot of advancements in this category to the point where he's whiffing a lot less than what was expected of him based off of his swing decisions in his 102-ish pitches so far in spring training. Just a little bit of a fun stat perhaps you could utilize. There's a lot of different tweaks that this statistic has to make, but just based solely on swing decisions, Alex Freeland, even though he makes good swing decisions, swings and misses more than what you would expect out of him, or at least has to this point, both last year at the major league level and in spring training. Curious to be able to dive into some of the AAA numbers if we want to do that sometime in the future. With Ha-Seong Kim, this was also true last year, not to the same degree as Freeland, but it's kind of reversed itself a little bit, at least in the past couple of spring training games for him. A couple of other notes, exit velos, this is really important to be able to understand why I think Ha-Seong Kim is ahead of Alex Freeland in this case. It's because Alex Freeland is not hitting the baseball hard at all, or at least has gone into an incredible rough patch of hitting the baseball hard. Average exit velo last year was about close to 91. In spring training, it's about a little less than 87.5. And this has come from a very key stretch of exit velos for him. You look at his since, and then we'll get into this. This is since March 9th. All of the exit velos, I'm going to read each plate appearances for Alex Freeland. Strikeout, ground out 68 miles per hour, ground out 68 miles per hour, strikeout, ground out 79 miles per hour, walk, ground out 48 miles per hour, strikeout, sacrifice fly 92, strikeout, pop out 70 miles per hour, ground out 91 miles per hour, strikeout, ground out 96 miles per hour, strikeout, walk, strikeout, ground out 95 miles per hour. The contact, as opposed to earlier in spring where you saw 103, 102, 100, 108, 107, 104 pop out in there, it is far down from what it was the previous season, at least from the batted balls that we've seen recently from Alex Freeland. Even at the minor league level, he was more of a 92 average exit velo as opposed to a 87 average exit velo, which with his swing decisions, you would expect a lot more from Alex Freeland in the contact that he made. He's just not making great contact right now. As opposed to Ha-Seong Kim, whose average exit velo is up close to 5 miles per hour than what it was last year. Last year at the major league level was at 86. Wasn't great average exit velo at the major league level. Not necessarily great at the minor league level as well. He's hitting the baseball a lot harder at this point. Looking at some of these, he's got a 104. He's got a 98. It's just a lot more consistent. It's not necessarily the highest exit velo, top at 104.6, but it's a little bit more consistent right now for Ha-Seong Kim that you feel a little bit more comfortable about him. Still not anything extraordinary, but a little bit more comfortable with that. Now we get into a little bit of a fun conversation with swing decisions, which, to be fair, and I'm going to make the statement right now, the roster decision hasn't technically been made, unless there's something that's happened over the course of the show, which I don't believe it has been made. There has not been an official roster decision, and I think this comes primarily from some of the swing decisions types metrics that we have talked about in the past. Now, what I wanted to do is essentially put a number to approach. We talk a lot about approach. Your approach is pretty good. And I've talked pretty extensively about the approach of Alex Freeland, and I wanted to be able to put some type of number to that. And what I've stumbled upon, or what I've decided to do with this, is take a look at, utilize some of this. Now, this right here is run value per 100 pitches, essentially what it is. And this is a box that you see right here. This has heart, shadow, chased, waste, each different type of zone, as well as whether a hitter swung or took a pitch. Meaning, for heart, if you decided for a pitch to swing at a pitch in the heart of the zone that had a expected run value, which essentially is trying to determine how good of a result is. Positive is good, negative is bad. It had an expected run value if you swung at a hard pitch in the 2025 regular season of .545. If you took that pitch, if you did not swing at that pitch, it had a negative run value of negative 5.9. Essentially what this is saying, you should swing at hard pitches. You should not take them, because it had an expected weighted on base average on contact of 413, shadow zone 329, chase 247, waste 202. Look at some of these other pitches. If you swung at chased or waste pitches, that had very high negative value, as opposed to taking them that had really positive value. With the shadow zone, it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more positive value taking those pitches, only because the shadow zone is actually where the pitcher is trying to get you to swing at, and that's where a little bit less damage can have, as opposed to the heart of the zone. Utilizing this value, utilizing the run value, we can actually go ahead and try to come up with a little bit more of a plus statistic on a more of an approach level. Now, this is not perfect. With these actual numbers, I would not take these actual numbers and say that an individual, like for example a WRC plus, if an individual at a 120 WRC plus, he's 20% better than the average major league hitter, I won't take that, because I don't have an exact perfection with some of these numbers. Rather, I would take some of these numbers and say, this guy has a really good approach, and you can use it a little bit more of a comparison. So essentially what we want to see, a lot of swings at the heart of the zone, perhaps not quite as many from the shadow, and not a whole lot from the chase and waste zone pitches, because that does not result in a whole lot of damage. Again, this is the MiLB weighted on base average on contact. You are much better off not swinging at chase and waste, swinging basically exclusively at the heart of the zone. If that is our determination, using run value divided by 100 for last per 100 pitches, essentially what it is. There's two different boxes that I have right here. This is swing decision plus. This does not take into account the percent of pitches that an individual has at each part of each pitch. For example, last year, or let's use spring training, Alex Freeland has seen about 26% of pitches in the heart of the zone, whereas Hae-Sung Kim has seen about 35% of pitches in the heart of the zone. This first swing decision plus does not take that into account, so we're going to utilize this more context swing decisions as this metric right here. 100, essentially league average. Anything above that, good swing decisions. Anything below that, bad swing decisions. And what you can see with this very loose estimate that I have right here, last year, Alex Freeland, 2025, pretty solid swing decisions. 130, 131 last year from what I have. Not a whole lot of swings at the heart of the zone, but not a lot of swings at the shadow zone. You can see the MiLB average right above that, below league average and the shadow zone swing percentage. And you also did not chase, did not swing at waste percentage. 6.5% for chase, 0% for waste percentage, which means he was really solid with his swing decisions. during spring training, that has gone up dramatically for swing decisions for a couple of different reasons. His hard swing decision is up 4%. So in the aggregate in spring training, he's also swinging at less pitches in the shadow zone. He's also swinging and missing at less chase pitches, which means his approach has actually gotten dramatically better. And when you're talking about different comments from Dave Roberts or Brandon Gomes about Alex Freeland and his approach, these perhaps are what they're looking at because they're seeing swing decisions. And it's not just about in zone and out of zone swing decisions. It's about the context inside of the in zone and out of zone swing percentage. Alex Freeland has been swinging a lot more at hard pitches, a little bit less at shadow pitches, and he's basically been non-existent on chase or waste pitches. He had his first 2 swings at chase pitches in a game recently, which we'll get into some of the recent numbers. With Ha-Seong Kim, last year at the major league level, the approach was not necessarily great or did not grade out great at all for him. This is in part because he was actually swinging at a below league average hard swing percentage, about 68%, while swinging a little bit above league average shadow swing percentage, a little bit above league average chase, above league average waste percentage swings. There was just all across the board, not necessarily great swing decisions, not the worst, but not great across the board for Ha-Seong Kim. It's gotten a lot better spring training, and particularly recently for him, to where it's been an above average approach. This was not the case early in spring training. And in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to look at 2 specific date ranges, because I actually believe, and you could say I'm totally off, I'm totally crazy with this, through March 8th, I think actually Alex Freeland was winning this battle. After March 8th, which is when we saw these exit velos for Alex Freeland that were not particularly good, and we saw reintroduction of a lot of swing and miss, a lot of strikeouts for him, is where numbers dramatically changed for Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim. So what you can see, this row represents the 21st through the 8th, and then the next one represents the 9th of March through the 18th. The same thing with Ha-Seong Kim. This includes 34 and 18 respective plate appearances for Freeland, and then 13 apiece for Ha-Seong Kim. And what you're going to notice, particularly, we'll start with Alex Freeland. This is some of the reasons why I was so high about Freeland, is because while his OPS at that time was 632, his expected OPS was 908. He did this while also being able to, when he made contact, put the ball in play at a 52.5% clip, much higher than the 36.7% clip, and he was doing this with above league average exit velos. His whiff percentage and expected whiff percentage were exactly the same, well below league average at 19%. And this is where Alex Freeland was exceeding at a degree that is really hard to fathom, or at least doing it to a really excellent degree. His swing decisions were off the charts. You can take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, the 261 contact swing decision plus, but this was with a just slightly below league average hard swing percentage, 65%, but this was with really low swings at the shadow zone. He was being really selective, and absolutely zero chase and whiff percentage, even despite the fact that about 38-39% of the pitches were in the chase waste zone. He didn't swing at any of those pitches, which means his approach was really solid. He was getting solid exit velos. He was whiffing a lot less around what was expected based on the swing decisions. He was putting the ball in play quite a bit, and the overall expected results were really solid. However, the past 18 plate appearances, and this is where we have to be honest about where Alex Freeland has gone in spring training, it has been not just rough results, it has been absolutely rough results for Freeland recently. A 111 OPS, not a 111 batting average, a 111 OPS with a 251 expected OPS March 9th through the 18th. This includes a lot more swings, 40% swing percentage, a lot less balls in play, 27% balls in play percentage for him. His whiff percentage has jumped up dramatically up to 33%, back to very concerning levels for Alex Freeland, much higher than what you would expect. And even though his swing decisions have been relatively solid, the biggest thing with Freeland right now is he's not making any hard contact at all. average exit velo over this time period is 78.4%. It has not been good in the past 18 plate appearances. You take the inverse, and this is what has been curious because Ha-Seong Kim, the underlying metrics did not back up Ha-Seong Kim getting the start at the major league level during the first 13 plate appearances that we saw. But the second 13 plate appearances, which I know is incredibly small of sample size, been much better for Ha-Seong Kim. This is where we have to be honest with the conversation that we have, because through the 8th, which does not include WBC statistics, only spring training statistics, 1.154 OPS, expected OPS below 600. This includes not a whole lot of percentage balls in play. Exit velos, relatively solid, 91, better than what the Alex Freeland was. But that came with a lot of swing and miss, 32%, which was not improved from what it was in the 2025 regular season. You look at his swing decisions, not necessarily great. Included a lot of swings in the hardest zone, but just a lot of swings everywhere. Shadow, chase, waste pitches, he was just swinging just about everything. And the only thing that was carrying his swing decisions was the fact that he was swinging a lot more at the heart of the zone, which really helped some of his numbers. Where have things changed since Ha-Seong Kim has returned to spring training camp? Expected results, 778 with a 900 actual OPS. He's swinging 10% less than what he had earlier in camp. And this is the biggest thing. And if Ha-Seong Kim is this type of player, he's going to be hard to be able to overtake in any type of roster spot. He's got a sub 10 whiff percentage in spring training the past 13 plate appearances. He's not swinging and missing a whole lot, while also getting above league average exit velos during this time period, about 90. His swing decisions also, actually in the past, since March 9th, have actually been technically better than what Alex Freeland's has. A little bit less heart swing decisions, more shadow swing decisions, but he's not chasing at all. And if you look at especially the percentage of pitches that fall into those zones, it's been relatively solid, in part because he's getting a lot of pitches at the heart of the zone, and he's not whiffing at all of them, and he's swinging at a decent amount of them. 42% heart pitch percentage for Ha-Seong Kim, whereas it's more of a 23% for an Alex Freeland. So, what has gone wrong with Alex Freeland? Because obviously there is a vast difference between what was expected and what in the first portion of spring training and what we've seen recently. Same thing with more of a Ha-Seong Kim. Couple of different things. We're going to look at the hard percentage for Alex Freeland right here. He has not hit the ball hard when he has gotten pitches in the heart of the zone. And this is the biggest thing that we're seeing right now with Alex Freeland. He's also not putting the ball in play at all. 4 of his 14 pitches in the heart of the zone have gone in play. He has to take advantage of those opportunities when it's in that type of zone. He's not hitting the ball hard when it's in that zone, and every single thing that he's getting in that zone has been on the ground. -16 average launch angle during this time period. He's also, when you get in the shadow of the zone, there's a lot of swing and miss. There always has been a lot of swing and miss, which is why you don't want Alex Freeland to expand too much, because if it's in the shadow zone, he's going to swing and miss quite a bit. He's also not hitting the baseball hole very hard at this point, much lower than what his previous results were. But the biggest thing is, right now, he's not taking advantage of the pitches that he is getting when he is getting them at the heart of the zone. And also, pitchers are executing a lot more. His shadow pitch percentage, about twice as high of what his heart pitch percentage is. It's Ha-Seong Kim, while he's getting much more pitches at the heart of the zone, he's also taking advantage of it, and I think that's what's leading to a lot of better results for Ha-Seong Kim. So that's a little bit of insight into some of the numbers that we have right here. Overall, what has been happening right here is Alex Freeland has made some pretty solid swing decisions, and I think some of the results and some of the approach that he has taken this spring training has been improved from what it was last year. But pitchers right now are taking advantage because they are throwing to Alex Freeland in more of the shadow of the zone, which if you're talking about ways to get Alex Freeland out, it's in the shadow, it's in the perimeter of the zone where Alex Freeland feels like he's got to swing at certain points in the count, and then it's with off-speed and breaking pitches. If you throw off-speed, breaking pitches in the shadow of the zone, Alex Freeland has a tough time executing. And it is when Alex Freeland gets those pitches in the heart of the zone where he has to be able to execute. And at least recently, he's not been able to execute. And as a result, that has led to not just bad results in spring training, but has led to really bad results. And just right now, I think there is at the plate a little bit perhaps of a lack of confidence because the results haven't followed with what the approach is. So yes, some of the comments that we've been hearing about from Dave Roberts, from a Brandon Gomes, about they really liked Alex Freeland's approach. That absolutely is true, and that puts him in a position to be able to succeed. But sometimes during small sample sizes, or sometimes when pressure is on like it has been, those results don't necessarily follow. And they haven't been following Alex Freeland at this point, and that has led to some bad results over the last 18 plate appearances. With Ha-Seong Kim, with his versatility, with his ability to be able to be dynamic on the offensive side, combined with his ability to play center field, and with the fact that he's swinging and missing a lot less at this point, at least since he has returned in his 13 plate appearances. Yes, I know he swung and missed a ton at the WBC, and I know he swung and missed a ton early in camp, but he's playing better as of right now. This does not mean that the roster spot has officially been determined, but if you're looking over the course of the next couple of days, which includes 2 more games in Arizona, followed by the Freeway Series, which will be 3 games, what Alex Freeland has to do to be able to earn/win that roster spot is we got to see the baseball exit velos hit a lot harder and Alex Freeland to take advantage of pitches in the heart of the zone. With Ha-Seong Kim, if he doesn't fall back into his swing and miss tendencies, I think we're likely to see Kim start the season on the opening day roster for the Dodgers. Doesn't mean it has been decided. Doesn't mean that's necessarily the right choice, but that is where things stand right now, Kim and Freeland. Kim, right now, has been playing a lot better recently over the past week and a half-ish or so since he's gotten back from camp. And the past week and a half for Alex Freeland has been really rough for him. Hopefully, Kim can keep it up. Freeland can turn it around. Both really good baseball players, and the Dodgers are going to need both of them to be able to compete in the 2026 season. That's essentially what I've been able to somewhat work on. Again, it's not perfect. It does not take into account a whole lot of different variables, but rather is trying to be able to put a number to swing decision type of metrics for you guys to be able to go and explore, as well as trying to put just a number to what I want to be able to talk to you guys about. A couple of other things, I'll just go ahead, showcase this to you guys so you guys can go ahead and explore this on your own. Again, the link to this Excel spreadsheet is in the description of this video, as well as pinned to the link of this chat. We have different statistics, which is not really easy to find, excluding expected statistics, whiff percentage, EVs against both lefties and righties. So for example, Dalton Rushing, even though he's got a sub 700 OPS, he's got really good expected results. 873 expected OPS for him. His exit velos have been really solid, about 94 for him. Swing and miss still very much is there for Dalton Rushing and still is a concern, but you're starting to see the impact that he has on the baseball, which has been great to see. Alex Call, 861 expected OPS. Actual results really solid as well. Teoscar has turned it around. He was swinging and missing, not hitting the ball in the air early in the camp. He's completely changed that with a couple of really solid plate appearances for him. Tibbs, Miller having pretty solid spring trainings as well. You can look at versus left-handed pitching. You can look at specifically versus right-handed pitching as well as on this spreadsheet, I have versus major league debut. Look at stats, because one of the concerns that you could have with spring training is it does not include statistics versus major league pitchers. They face major leaguers. They face a little bit more fringe type of players. They face minor league players. Well, if you just want to look at the statistics against major league players, does not include whiff percentage. That's a little bit more difficult to be able to attain. These are the stats against specifically pitchers who have made their major league debut, as well as major league regulars, a little bit more fringe major league guys, but have made their major league debut, and then more minor league type of pitchers. You can see some of these stats, as well as statistics, pitch type contact, Kim versus Freeland specifically, be able to do a comparison with them, as well as different swing decision type of metrics. with some of the other guys, could go ahead and be able to explore. This is a little bit of fun spreadsheet that I've been working on, being able to update as spring training has gone along, as I have far too much free time on my hand as I'm waiting Loons games to be able to go ahead and start. Which, by the way, new hat just dropped, loons.milbstore.com. This hat is sweet. You guys need to go ahead and get this. Also got Great Lakes Loons jersey on right now. Always trying to rep the gear that they have. 15 days until Loons opening day. About 7 until the Los Angeles Dodgers go ahead and start with their season as well. But for the last couple minutes or so, I want to be able to interact with you guys as best you can. If you have questions specifically for me or different topics that you want me to go ahead and address, please let me know in the comments section. I'd be happy to be able to go ahead and get into them as well. Lucy Chen, thank you for joining us. Again, obviously, going back to the pitching conversation, it's not based on performance, says Lucy. I feel bad for the young pitchers who are competing so hard, like River Ryan, Kyle Hurt. Again, I don't mind Roki giving a chance to start in the rotation. I'm just afraid our bullpen will be taxed if he can't pitch efficiently and go only 3 to 4 innings. That is a concern, and that's where somebody potentially like a Justin Robleski, who can go a little bit long, or perhaps a Ben Kasperius, who might be utilized a little bit more in multi-inning type of relief, is going to be needed. What the Dodgers can't afford to do this season is what they did last year, and that is lead basically the major leagues in number of innings pitched by the bullpen. And it is a very valid concern to say, look at some of these spring training results. Roki Sasaki has come out early for a couple of them, re-entered, and still struggle with a lot of the opportunities that he's been giving. Is that going to tax the bullpen? Absolutely, very much a concern, and that is something that the Dodgers are going to keep a close eye out for. And that's where somebody like a Ryder Ryan could be somebody that you could see come up, added to the roster at some point, and relieve some of the innings that the bullpen has been pitching at points this season. But I think the Dodgers are going to be counting, at least early in the season, on Roki Sasaki, because that's where the development is needed for him. Showtime LA, been tough and unlucky spring for Freeland, and it seems ticketed for Oklahoma City. I'm sure he'll be up once a guy goes down, though. We'll go ahead and see what happens with Alex Freeland. It was my expectation probably starts the season in Oklahoma City, just based off the conversation that we had for him. If he maintains this approach, and if the approach leads to the results that you would expect this approach to have, I don't think it will be too long before you see Alex Freeland at the major league level at some point, especially if he gets back to even just slightly above league average exit velos, which he was doing that at Oklahoma City last year, and he did that at the major league level last year. You would see good results for him, and I think the approach will play at some point. But sometimes you have to be patient with the approach, and sometimes results don't always follow with the approach. But maintaining the approach that he has is going to be a really good thing for him. Arcarino 5, love seeing Austin with that hat. Absolutely got to go get this hat. New hat. Actually, a little bit more of a throwback from what the Loons had. The Loons actually had a hat just like this. It was gray hat with a little bit more of a black rim. They decided to throw back kind of to this hat and re-release a version of it. It is amazing. You guys have to be able to get this. It took me about 5 seconds once I saw that they had released it to be able to buy it. Go ahead and check it out. Lucy Chen, to be honest, Kyle Hurt has pitched better than any of these guys out of the bullpen. He's looked awesome, and you will see Kyle Hurt at the major league level. It all comes down to how do they want to implement him throughout the course of the season? How do they get him to October? It's about name recognition. I know Roki, but I've never seen River Ryan before. Could be a little bit name recognition. Could be because a little bit of they made certain promises, certain things to a Roki Sasaki that they don't have the obligation to a River Ryan before. But I think a large part of it is they were wanting to have a little bit more of a controlled environment for River Ryan in his build-up in innings as he comes back from Tommy John surgery, and they don't have the need to go ahead and put the best overall roster like they would in a postseason type setting, because the team is already likely to win close to 100 games, win the National League West, and I think they're okay with taking some of the lumps in the regular season to try to build the best roster going forward for the postseason, because if Roki Sasaki starts the season and spends a majority of the season in Oklahoma City, He's not going to take the lumps that are necessary, perhaps, to get him to a point where he's ready to pitch for the team in October. And you could say the same thing about River Ryan, but I think his opportunity, his timing is likely to come up sooner than later in the season, and I think you'll see him at some point. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights, what's up? Happy Thursday to you as well. CNAV, Kristen Rivaro, thank you very much for joining us. Lucy Chen, how long of a leash do you think the Dodgers give Roki? I think they're going to go ahead and give him likely... Oh, that's a good question. I think they are going to give him, assuming the results aren't absolutely terrible, absolutely atrocious, they're going to reevaluate things maybe mid-May, end of May, see where exactly things are at the very, and that's assuming that the results aren't necessarily good at all, but they're not at a point where, man, every single time that he's got a 6.5 ERA. I think they're going to give him a decently long leash before they go ahead and make any sort of decisions. Jay, with a bit of a bold prediction question, yes or no, Justin Robleski to a wire-to-wire on the 26-man roster, thereby preserving an option year? I say yes. I say Justin Robleski is going to stay on the Major League roster, and I think the Dodgers are going to need him to pitch some innings, whether this is more of a piggyback role, whether this is a sixth starter type of role. I think they can utilize him in a lot of different unique ways, especially with some of the injuries that have happened with the starting pitching early in spring, with no Gavin Stone to start the season, with no Blake Snell to start the season. I think Justin Robleski is one of those guys who, even if Blake Snell comes back and all the other starters are healthy and pitching well, you still want Justin Robleski on your Major League roster. So I'll say yes at this point. Pitching injuries will also throw a little bit of a wrinkle in that, but I think he will. Same thing with CNAV, Christopher Jar, thinking that. And I think the subtraction of Bonda paved the way for Robo. I think that's a really good point that you have right there. CNAV, notice Landon Knapp has gotten in shape. He's lost some weight as a result of that. Yeah, I think I'm hoping for a good season for Landon Knapp. He's going to be utilized for the Dodgers in more spot starts. Very likely not going to be part of the roster long term for the Dodgers, so I'm hoping for some success that can help propel him to additional opportunities at some point with other organizations, unless he completely does something completely unexpected and goes out and has a ton of success. Yes, XWO Bacon is a little bit of a fun joke that we have here at Dodgers Dogs whenever we bring up weighted on base average contact, spells the word bacon on that. CNAV, like to see the stats versus Major League pitching. Much of the early spring training at-bats are against minor league pitching. You can go ahead and check that out on the spreadsheet to be able to see how hitters are doing in spring training for the Dodgers that I'm looking at against Major League pitching as opposed to against some of the minor league pitching as well. Let's see. Steven Richter, Freeland, and Ward need to be traded. With Kim and Edman, there's no path forward for the Dodgers for Freeland. That is, unless there is some struggle with guys like a Kim, unless there is some type of injury, or unless the results that follow along with what the approach actually suggests he is actually doing. Because the approach that Alex Freeland has had, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to look at the results of spring training and say, man, you're looking at a 442 OPS. That is not good. Alex Freeland has not been good this spring training at all. And I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that, but the approach that he is taking can lead to good results, to where even if he's below league average or below what the MLB average is on the whiff percentage on the pitches, specific type of pitches that he has, even if it's a little bit below league average exit velo on the different type of pitches that he has, if he maintains this, he should have good solid results. I think right now the results just are not following with what he is doing, but if it does, you have a really solid defender that can go out and play multiple different positions around the infield, hit well left-handed against right-handed pitching, which pairs well with somebody like a Tommy Edman, can pair well specifically with the Tommy Edman, I should say. You could say maybe Mookie Betts, but Mookie Betts is going to play full-time for the next couple of seasons, so that doesn't necessarily count. I think there's a fairly decent conversation about Freeland potentially being trade type of piece, but I don't know if it's not right now. And I still have concerns about Ha-Seong Kim going forward because, let's be fair, until these most recent 13 plate appearances, if you look at WBC and you look at the early part of spring training, there was no signs of Hae-Sung Kim fixing his swing and miss, which if there's no fixing his swing and miss, or there is no fix to what his swing and miss actually is, there's going to be a lot of struggle for Hae-Sung Kim going forward at the plate at the major league level. With Freeland, at least you could say the approach is there, and the approach sets him up to where he's not going to have a whole lot of swing and miss. Obviously, most recent performances for Freeland have not been good at all. You can't defend what the actual results are with a 251 expected OPS in the past 18 plate appearances. Not good at all. But going forward, I think there's still reason to be able to believe in a Alex Freeland and being patient with what the results are. Don't give up on players after 100 plate appearances. Don't give up on players after a poor spring training performance. Be patient with some of these guys. Be patient and trust the process. And Alex Freeland right now, you have to trust the process a lot with him in order to wait for some of the results are. But also, listen to some of the voices that are coming out of Dodgers camp. And it's not Alex Freeland is not good. Alex Freeland has been terrible. Look at the numbers that he has. There's positive things to be said about what Alex Freeland has. And the reality is the decision for second base hasn't technically or at least publicly been decided yet. And that speaks volumes because all of the other roster decisions have already been taken. Perhaps it's just an inevitability, and perhaps they're just trying to be courteous to the decision that has been made. But that's a sign that either one, they like Alex Freeland a lot more than what you like Alex Freeland, or number two, there's a little bit of a lack of confidence in what Hae-Sung Kim has been able to provide, a little bit less confident in Hae-Sung Kim than what you would expect. I think it's somewhere in the middle between what those two actually are. So a little bit of curious thoughts that are going out right there. I'm looking at Alex Freeland's age. It's not far to Freeland to keep him Blake Grass emergency type of role. Alex Freeland, I think, is 24, 25, something like. I think he's 24, entering into his age 24 season, something like that for Freeland. So he's still incredibly young. Dodgers can keep him around for a little bit. Thank you very much for all of the different comments. Sammy Boy Smith, is Ryder Ryan going to come up at all to Los Angeles? It hasn't been officially decided. I would not be surprised, though. It depends on the timeline of how long Ryder is in the organization. He's in the organization for a good chunk of the year. He pitches solidly at AAA Oklahoma City. I think we could see him doing a little bit of work in Los Angeles. CNAV, Noah Miller has been phenomenal at shortstop. It's been rough recently for Noah Miller with some of the plate appearances. The whiff, the swing and miss as spring training has gone way up. There was a stretch where it was basically like 10 strikeouts and about 15 plate appearances for him. But especially early in, I think the biggest thing that you can take away, especially early in camp, which we'll go ahead, I'll cut over to this just a second so you can see. This is Noah Miller with some of his plate appearances. Like, look at some of this contact and some of the expected batting average, expected results for Noah Miller. I'm just going to use expected batting average: 666, 686, 291, 531, 466, 320, 611, 760, 520, 440. Posted a 109, 105, 106 exit velos. It was really solid results until this most recent stretch where it's been much more of a struggle for Noah Miller. But he has, with Noah Miller, if he can provide a little bit of stability on offense, his defense is going to carry him. His defense is ridiculous, absurd. It's all about his bat. And with some of the expected results that he had early in spring training, you saw a lot of good things for Noah Miller going ahead for him. Let's get into a couple more comments. Let's see. Al Minerva, Sheehan, Freeland, Hope, etc. for Scooble. Win-win for both teams. We'll wait and see. I am, as you guys have come to learn, a little bit more of a patient / look at all options before you make a decision of what you're going to do with any sort of trade avenues. I know Casey is a little bit more on board with those type of trades, and he's not necessarily wrong. There are certain decisions that the Dodgers very much could have made, and there's issues that the Dodgers have overcome that you don't necessarily want to be able to put yourself in a position every single time. For example, last year, trade deadline, I have not really been for trading for the Class A's or the Yohan Duran or the Mason Miller, or giving up the very high prospect pedigree for relievers, as opposed to Casey, who saw that a little bit more as a need and like, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And I want to see all the different options before making a decision. And I also want to see where the health of the pitching staff is before making any type of trade. And I'm sure that's where the Tigers necessarily are at too, because I don't think the Tigers are at a point where they're wanting to trade Tarek Skubal yet, because they went out and actually invested in their team this offseason, at least on the pitching side. And I believe they believe that they are in a position to go ahead and win in October. And I think they've made the decision they're going to ride with Tarek Skubal until October and then likely lose him in free agency. But they're going to have a chance to be able to go out and, in a division that they very easily can win, go out, see what happens in the postseason for the Detroit Tigers. So I don't think the Tigers are fully in on board trading for a Tarek Skubal yet, but we have to wait and see. And I also want to see where the Dodgers are at before making a decision on that. Mr. Seabad, parades over prospects, trade Freeland for bullpen arms. Yes, absolutely. You want to go ahead and have as many parades as possible, but it is about how do you create as many opportunities for you to have parades as you possibly can be, and also which bullpen arms are you specifically looking for in that, and what is the best possible trade that you could go ahead and made. When you hear the statement parades over prospects, absolutely that is true, but the conversation is much more nuanced. That's more of a simplistic, in my opinion, approach to be able to put on things before, instead of having a little bit more of that nuanced type of conversation. And with that type of conversation, I want it on a more individualized level. It's okay to be able to go ahead and have that more as a philosophy, to where that's more of I want to be aggressive in going ahead and trading some of the talent that I have in system to go ahead and pursue major league talent. But to what extent do you want to go ahead and do that? Because if it was just about trading away prospects in order to acquire major league talent, the San Diego Padres would have multiple World Series championships, because that's exactly what they've done. And yet, that doesn't always work out, and that isn't always the best decision that you could make at that particular moment in time. It's more of let's check and try to make as many smart decisions as you possibly can be. That's at least where I'm at. That doesn't mean the Dodgers shouldn't trade Alex Freeland at this point, or won't trade Alex Freeland in the future. But it is a wait and see what happens. And especially if Alex Freeland can get back to being at slightly above league average and exit velos and maintain a incredibly solid approach, there is likely to be success with him at the major league level. It's just not happening right now for Alex Freeland. Let's see. We'll go ahead and see what happens at the trade deadline. We're not going to dive into trade deadline, sort of the philosophy behind that quite yet. So I'm not exactly sure, CNF, when my next show is going to be. We'll see. I have not had the chance to be able to interact with Casey, so I have no idea what he's been doing the past couple of days. I'm assuming it's been a little bit more of the Oklahoma State side of things, he's got so much on his plate. So we'll be back to more shows in the future, more shows where we get to have these conversations. A couple of fun things to keep in mind over the next couple of days with Dodgers. Final 2 spring training games in Camelback Ranch, or in Arizona, I should say, are going to be happening tomorrow and on Saturday. Also happening on Saturday is the spring breakout game. This is a game that happens, recent tradition that Major League Baseball has started, where it's just the prospects that are highlighted at the major league level or on a specific field. And on Saturday at 5:30 Eastern / 2:30 Pacific, I believe is when the game is at. What I'm just going to do right now, I'm just going to run through the specific names. This might be something where Casey does a little bit more of a deep dive, or Casey and I do a little bit more of a deep dive. But I want to make sure that you guys know which guys are going to be part of the mix. Maddox Bruns, former first-round pick. Cam Day, really talented right-handed reliever, was on the show earlier this offseason. Peyton Martin, also on the show earlier. Cody Morse, who's pitched a lot, left-handed arm coming out of the bullpen. I'm excited to be able to see him play. hopefully in Great Lakes this upcoming season. Marlon Nieves pitched for Rancho, right-handed pitcher in the system. Zach Root, first-round pick, left-handed pitcher. Adam Sierwanowski, left-handed pitcher. He's absolutely somebody we've been highlighting quite a bit. Christian Zazueta as well. I don't know why my screen is jumping around. I apologize if it's jumping around a little bit. Zazueta, right-handed pitcher. Catchers, Francisco Espinoza and Victor Rodriguez. I have not had a chance to be able to watch either of them. They're going to be part of the spring breakout roster. Infielders, I actually don't necessarily know how to pronounce this. Moises Bolivar. I've not watched him a whole lot. Chase Harlan, Elijah Hainline, fun to watch. Kellen Lindsay, former first-round pick. Emil Morales, really highly talented prospect. Yuandri Vargas and Logan Wagner. Wags, super, super good dude. And then a whole bunch of great outfielders. Davelin, DePaula, Earhart, George, Hope, Quintero, Sirota, Tibbs, Tunick, and Vidarek. Insane, the outfield talent. And this is just a small extent of the outfield talent that the Dodgers have. They're going to be part of the spring breakout game that will be happening in 2 days. Highly encourage you guys to be able to check that out. Watch that specific game because the talent on that roster is absolutely phenomenal for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up what we have here on Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. It's been a fun show for you guys. A lot of back and forth that we have. A lot of different conversations. A couple of things to note. Dodgers games are going to be happening. Regular season games are going to be happening in a week. We'll be providing you guys a lot of coverage on Dodgers regular season games, just like we've had spring training, just like we've had during the offseason. And then that means following major league team, minor league clubs are going to be happening, and that's when I get the chance to be able to go to a lot of those games. Super excited about that. You guys are the absolute best. I can't thank you guys enough for the support that you have for me, for the channel, for everything that we do here. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. God bless, and go Dodgers.